$7 trillion, and yet you won't even notice it. Just waste, fraud, and abuse in American history. So you have the biggest tax cut, the biggest spending cut, the largest border security investment in American history. We want to have strong borders, and the only thing is we want to have great elections, too. You need strong borders and elections, and my people have promised me that we're going to go into elections, and we're going to make sure they're not rigged, that they're not sullied. We're going to make sure that the elections are going to be fair. You need two things. You need strong borders and you need fair elections. And we're going to make sure on the elections also. And our armed forces are one of the most vital military modernizations of all time. It will take place. So we rebuilt our military in our first term, and now we're going to modernize and remodernize our military, including building a great golden dome all over our land so that if they get nasty with us, it's going to be knocked down. It's going to make any of the golden domes, they call them the iron domes, we're calling ours the golden dome, because we did the iron domes, and we do sort of everything, if you want to know the truth, but this blows it away. We're going to keep you safe. I want to thank every member of the House and Senate who worked to get this bill on my desk, and many of them are here, and I'm not going to mention all their names because we'll be standing here, but I have to mention a few, and especially I want to thank Vice President J.D. Vance, who's been fantastic. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who's been incredible. We have somebody that is, it was a passion. I think he actually loved it. It wasn't easy, but he loved it. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, who's right here. Speaker, thank you very much. What a job, and he worked so closely with the Senate Majority Leader, John Thune, who's a fantastic guy. And those two are a team that is not going to be beat. When you look at them and you look at their counterparts on the other side, it's not even close. I want to thank both of you people for doing an incredible job. Thank you very much, John and Mike. House Majority Leader Steve Scalise, a brave man. Steve, you know, he suffered a tragedy a number of years ago. I was at his hospital bedside that night with Melania, with our First Lady, and he had no chance. The doctor said he has very little chance, and you look better today than you did then. He didn't look particularly good that night, I will say. But I learned one thing. His beautiful wife loved him. She was a disaster, right? I told him, I said, Steve, I can only tell you one thing. I was with your family, and I was with your wife, and your wife was devastated. She loves you. I've seen a lot of wives that, you know, they don't seem to be so concerned in those situations. That's the kind of wife you don't want. But you have a great, beautiful wife who was really there, and you really have done. You're a very brave guy, and Mike and John and everybody that's standing with you knows it. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. House Majority Whip, this is a guy who's great. When I have a problem, I call him up, and he gets it done. He's a tough cookie. I don't know why he's not the governor of Minnesota. He comes from Minnesota. He's like, oh, look, he goes, no, I don't want to run for governor. You know, come to think of it, I think that's a good idea. You would win so easily. The guy is terrible. You would win. You just have to take a look at that handsome face of yours, and you'd win. Tom Emmer, everybody. He did a great job. I think you should consider that, although we don't want to lose him, do we? We don't want to. Let's say we are. I think say we are. What a job you did. And Senate Majority Whip John Barrasso, who's incredible. Senate Finance Chairman Mike Crapo. Thank you, Mike. What a job. What a job. He knows that tax stuff. Him and Jason, they really know their stuff. Senate Budget Committee Chairman Lindsey Graham. What a good man he is. I see a poll. He's running, and I see a poll. He's 24 points up. That's not bad, Lindsey. That's not bad. 24 points up in the great state of South Carolina. House Ways and Means Chairman Jason Smith. What a job. Thank you, Jason. Thank you. These people are great. These are great patriots. I have to call them out. House Budget Committee Chairman Jody Arrington. Jody, thank you very much. Jody has been good right from the beginning, and so many others, and they're all here, and they fully understand. They'll never speak to me again, but that's okay. It is what it is, but I just want to thank everybody. A lot of senators here, a lot of congressmen and women here. Lisa, thank you very much, by the way. I have to thank you. Thank you very much. You've been fantastic. So this bill will fuel massive economic growth and lift up the hardworking citizens who make this country run. the factory workers, farmers, mechanics, waiters, waitresses, police officers, firefighters, coal miners. Coal is back. Beautiful. I said you can't use the word coal unless you precede it by saying clean, beautiful coal. China's right now building 68 coal generating plants, and we're putting up wind. It doesn't work, I will tell you. Aside from ruining our fields and our valleys and killing all the birds and being very weak and very expensive, all made in China. I noticed something, that with all of the windmills that China sends us, where we waste our money because it's the most expensive energy, I see that, they make about 95% of them, the wind turbines. I have never seen a wind farm in China. Why is that? Somebody check that out. Tom Emmer, would you please check that out? But all the coal miners we love and the truck drivers, in this act, we have officially made the Trump tax cuts permanent. That's the largest tax cut in the history of our country, added to substantial other cuts, which is you're going to see like a rocket ship. We're setting all sorts of economic records right now, and that's before this kicks in. After this kicks in, our country is going to be a rocket ship economically, and we've delivered no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. And that's why when you hear things like that, this is the most it's the biggest bill of its kind ever done by far. But we are going to have a situation, we are going to have something where people are going to realize the level of success and popularity of this bill. And sort of to close it out, it makes the child tax credit permanent for 40 million American families. And to increase the car affordability, it makes interest on unbalanced. They let them into our country. We're getting them out at record numbers, and we have an obligation to, and we're doing it. So as we approach the 250th anniversary of America's founding exactly 1 year from now, we are creating an economy that delivers wealth for the middle class, a border that is sovereign and secure, and a military that is unmatched, unequaled anywhere in the world. And you saw that. And what a beautiful sight that was, especially after watching what they did just a short while ago. The golden age of America is upon us. We are in the golden age. It's going to be a period of time, the likes of which I don't think this country has ever experienced before. We're going to make America great again, and it's happening very fast. We love you. We thank you for being here. Enjoy the fireworks tonight. And First Lady, I want to thank you. You have been unbelievable. You think it's easy being First Lady? It's not. Thank you all very much. Happy 4th of July. God bless you all. Thank you very much, everybody.
All right, that's President Trump wrapping up remarks from the South Lawn of the White House. Wrapping up remarks on the South Lawn, he is about to head downstairs to the South Lawn where he's going to sign his big, beautiful bill into law in front of military families he has gathered there with him. Military families, it turns out, from Whiteman Air Force Base, home to the B-2 bombers that dropped bunker busters over Iranian territory 2 weeks ago. Let's go ahead and bring in Chief National Security Correspondent Jennifer Griffin. Jennifer, tell us about those pretty impressive flyovers we saw.
Well, Jillian, it's very touching to have heard the president pay tribute to, he said, 100 families, service members and their families from Whiteman Air Force Base. Of course, that's where home to the B-2 bomber. 7 of those B-2 bombers flew over Iran and dropped those 14 massive ordnance penetrators on the 2 nuclear sites, and then, of course, the Tomahawks from the submarine, the Ohio-class submarine, fired on the Isfahan site. But to see him call out those airmen, some of the B-2 bombers who flew round trip 37 hours without stopping, air refueled along the way by about 50 different air refueling teams. Some of the mechanics from that flight are at the White House right now, and they will be watching the fireworks of a different sort than what they saw 2 weeks ago. Jillian?
We're looking live, Jennifer, at a shot of the president who's about to sign the big, beautiful bill into law. He is surrounded by White House officials, by cabinet secretaries, by key members of both chambers of Congress who helped move the bill through its many drafts and get it signed, passed through both chambers. A historic moment, as he has been touting all afternoon long. This is going to go down in history as his landmark legislation, President Trump's version of Obamacare or of President Biden's infrastructure bill. Mark Meredith is standing by. He is there, I think, still on the South Lawn.
Jillian, I sure am. We're still here on the South Lawn as the president is surrounded by those congressional delegations that pushed his legislative and tax policy package over the finish line. It was the president himself who wanted this to happen today on the 4th of July. It was a deadline that almost seemed impossible a few weeks ago, even maybe a few days ago, given some of the action that we saw in the Senate. But as the president talked about, he believes this package is going to be beneficial when it comes to the tax cuts that will last for a long period of time. No taxes, at least for a few years, on Social Security benefits, on overtime, as well as tips. That was a campaign promise that the president made, and we saw the Democrats try to catch back up on during the cycle because it's proved to be so popular. We'll look to see what the polling is like in the weeks, months ahead. And the president also had a chance to call out the supporters that helped him out there. Jillian?
Mark, let's listen in. It looks like the president is speaking to some of the legislators there.
Good job.
Absolutely. And we have some more. We'll give you some more. Our great First Lady.
Oh, yeah, you would have worked me in. Scott, you're awesome.
Secretary, congratulations. I'll let you
hold the gavel.
I don't know. Honey, now you got to go in.
You're
Get the gavel.
awesome.
You're very trusting.
Give that guy a raise. Give that guy a raise.
Thank you very much, everybody. And I want to thank the people up here. They're unbelievable people. Mary, hi, Mary. How's Scott doing? Good job? Scott, how's the economy? Okay?
Wonderful.
Going to get better.
From South Carolina.
It's been amazing. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good time. Happy 4th of July.
Happy 4th.
All right, let's go ahead and bring the panel back in. There's the president, the first lady. We see Steve Scalise behind him. We see Speaker of the House Mike Johnson to his left. We see Lindsey Graham and Senator Risch, chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, somewhere there on the right. I just saw him walk over there. Gents, want to get your reaction to what we just heard. Charlie, I had to cut you off twice earlier.
Quite all right. I'm used to it.
I know, but we would like to
Especially
give you a
from you.
chance to regain some ground. What did you think?
A terrific ceremony. I mean, obviously, President Trump sort of rewrites the way everything gets done in Washington, and this was no exception. A couple of things that I just sort of noticed that I thought were particularly poignant was at the beginning when he was introducing the B-2 bombers, and Melania was standing beside him, and he called out to them and said, you know, if you were one of the B-2 bombers, please raise your hand. And she shook her head like, no, please don't raise your hand, because of course she's probably they've just met with them recently, and she realizes how much what a threat Iran is to these pilots. And she's like, please, no, keep your secrecy, keep your safety. And of course, all of them just raised their hands. And I thought that was a very touching moment. And I thought it kind of explained why when the B-2 flew over, the look on the First Lady's face when she looked up, she looked deeply emotional as she watched the B-2 fly over. And I just thought that was a very sweet and powerful moment.
Trey, what's your reaction to all of this?
You know, I was just thinking about, I mean, look, President Trump is the reason this got done, but John Thune and Mike Johnson are two of the more decent people in that particular line of work. And I do think they deserve the credit that the president gives them. They have a fractious caucus that they have to deal with, especially Mike. I mean, some of the worst left, but it's still a fractious conference. So I think the president deserves the overwhelming majority of the credit, but John Thune and Mike Johnson, he was correct to point them out.
Steve, to Trey's point, I mean, Speaker Johnson is somebody who, never mind most Americans, most members of Congress had never heard of until recently.
Oh, he's done an extraordinary job. I mean, Donald Trump is on a string of wins, one after another. Legislatively, they come out by the skin of their teeth. When they don't look like it's going to necessarily work out. I think, you know, Mike Johnson and some of the people around him somehow had good makeup put on, because I know these guys are exhausted. They didn't get any sleep for over 24 hours. You know, this thing was being negotiated in the dead of night and morning, and there was no deal. I think what Trey just said about being a fractious caucus is absolutely right. And through a combination of basically smart politics, you know, elbow twisting, that we haven't kind of seen since Lyndon Baines Johnson, in my view, you know, a Democrat that was really tough and got what he wanted. I think we're seeing the same kind of thing, but we're seeing it with such narrow majorities. I remember when Senator Joe Manchin, blew up Build Back Better, another BBB bill for Joe Biden, and they weren't able to hold their caucus together in that case. But in this case, they were able to bring this in for a win. And I think that there's nobody better than Donald Trump in creating a really great show around a key moment in American history, and that's what we're seeing right now.
I think Jennifer Griffin is still with us. Want to bring her back into the conversation. Jennifer, something else the president touted in these remarks was military recruitment. He said there is a historic high. Can you talk to us about those numbers?
Well, absolutely, Jillian. It's really extraordinary because we're a few months before the end of the fiscal year, and all of the services have met, are at 100% or 110% of their recruiting. It's gotten to the point that some at the Pentagon have said to me they're going to have to ask for more money because personnel, as you know, are expensive, and so many people are joining. They are really, they're going to need money for these personnel. But this $150 billion that's in the big, beautiful bill, that is going to go there's about $8 billion that's for service members' wellness and for the
that and more than $10,000 going into the pockets of the typical family.
Democrats say the bill is a bust and that new work requirements for Medicaid and food stamp recipients will leave millions of Americans scrambling for support.
When they learn the details of the GREED Act of 2025, they realize this is the largest consolidation of wealth that we have seen in our nation's history.
Democrats say they want the legislation to dominate their midterm messaging. The Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee says it'll make sure every battleground voter knows how vulnerable House Republicans abandoned them by passing the most unpopular piece of legislation in modern American history. Republicans say they're ready to defend the legislation as they bet Americans will see tax cuts and more border security as something worth celebrating.
We're bolstering our support for the border. We're bolstering our support for our military, which is so important with what's been happening around the world.
While this bill went into a lot of effort to address taxes and the domestic economy, one of the big questions will be, of course, what happens with the tariffs? The president saying he's sending out new letters as soon as this week to more countries, letting them know he wants these trade deals to move a lot faster. We saw the one with Vietnam get announced, but there are a lot of countries still on the list. So we're looking to see if the president drops any hints about where they may lead as he wraps up the celebration. Jillian, I have to mention, I was out here 5 years ago for the 4th of July in 2020. It was the pandemic. It was such a subdued atmosphere, but seeing the president out here tonight, you can see he's feeling very good about where he is as he kicks off this legislative achievement. Jillian.
All right, well, try and stay cool out there as best as you can. Thank you, Mark. Also breaking tonight, multiple deaths reported in Texas after heavy rain there caused flash flooding. Search teams are now using boats to conduct rescues as fast-moving water there, you can see it on your screen, threatens riverfront communities across the state. Correspondent Dana Marie McNichol joins us now with that story. Good evening, Dana Marie.
Good evening, Jillian. Well, catastrophic flash flooding. County sheriffs, they just announced 13 fatalities. Local officials there say that there is not a flood warning in place for Kerrville. That's just a city 60 miles northwest of San Antonio. It saw almost a foot of rain before 9 a.m. this morning. Now, throughout the day, the swift water rescue crews have been looking for people stranded in homes, vehicles, and even trees. Kerr County officials say an unknown number of people remained unaccounted for. Law enforcement officers, they are now working to identify people who died in the flooding.
Most of them, we don't know who they are. We're having to have a fingerprint on them at the funeral home. And one of them was completely naked. She didn't have any idea on them at all. So we're trying to get the identity of these folks, but we don't have it yet.
A major concern are the children in the children's summer camps along the river valley. At one camp, around 20 young girls are still missing. That's according to the Lieutenant Governor of Texas. Questions remain about why camps did not evacuate yesterday.
I can't answer that. I don't know.
Well, you're the judge. I mean, you're the top official here in this county. Why can't you answer that? There are kids missing. These camps were in harm.
People to still shelter in place. The president is aware of what's happening, and the lieutenant governor says that they mentioned they will receive any resources they need. Jillian.
All right, Dana Marie, thank you for that. Officials at the Homeland Security Department now are working closely with state and local law enforcement to try and ensure a safe and secure Independence Day for folks all across the nation's millions expected to gather in New York City for the annual fireworks display there. It's pretty spectacular. Let's take a look now at how officials plan to keep that event safe, what we can expect from all those pyrotechnics. Let's bring in correspondent Nate Foy. Hey, Nate.
Hey, Julian, good evening. So, yeah, the Department of Homeland Security isn't aware of any specific credible threats tonight in New York or anywhere else across the country. But the NYPD is operating in a heightened threat environment, as they have been since the October 7th Hamas terror attack. They're specifically focused on terrorist sympathizers who are inspired by the conflict overseas. Today in New York, we did see nonviolent protesters light an American flag on fire. Take a look at
Biddo.
They say America doesn't make things like they used to. We'll say that to Linda, or Maurice, or Jep, or Whitney. At Allegiance Flag Supply, we do things not because they're easy, but because they're right. Every stitch, every stripe, every star, made by Americans for the America you believe in. Visit showallegiance.com to order your high-quality American flag today. That's showallegiance.com.
If you know luxury, it's not just award-winning, it's rewarding. Saatva Mattresses supports all types of sleepers. Luxury is handcrafted and assembled in American factories and brought directly to you with our complimentary in-home delivery and setup service, which is why over 90% of customers
Products with American workers in America's hometowns, creating good-paying jobs, the kind that require only a strong work ethic, because we believe in the promise of America and the people who make it great.
This river wasn't dammed in a day, and GMC trucks weren't built overnight. Like every American achievement, they are a result of dedication. Over 100 years dedicated to the art of engineering and the ambition to always move this country forward. Celebrate Independence Day. Current eligible GMC owners get 0% APR with a total value of over $11,000 on this Sierra 1500 model. That's 20% below MSRP.
Zelensky says he had a, quote, very important and productive phone call with President Trump. That call came just hours after the U.S. appeared to pause some shipments of crucial air defense systems. We've got Fox team coverage for you. Correspondent Alex Hogan has details on last night's aerial assault, but we begin first with Chief National Security Correspondent Jennifer Griffin with a closer look at those missile defense systems.
President Trump spoke this morning with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, who thanked Trump for his support and offered to help the U.S. with Ukrainian drone technology honed during his fight with Russia. Zelensky writing, quote, "We spoke about opportunities in air defense and agreed that we will work together to strengthen protection of our skies." Their conversation comes a day after President Trump described a frustrating phone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
I'm not happy about that. I'm not happy. I didn't make any progress with him today at all.
Tank shells. Lockheed Martin and Raytheon plan to produce 740 Patriot missiles this year, ramping up to 1,100 2 years from now. Jillian?
All right, Jennifer Griffin, here in the D.C. newsroom tonight. Thank you. So Ukrainians now scrambling to try and pick up some of the pieces after Russia last night launched what was the largest air assault over Kyiv of the war so